a huge church. Everybody in my family on both sides, mother and father, all belong to the same church across the United States.
Mhm.
It's called the Supreme Council of the House of Jacob.
Wow, that's deep, God. That's deep,
Right,
God.
right. So my church was different. I should say different, but it's similar to a lot of other black churches at the time. It was founded in the early parts of the century, and it was in line of like the churches of like Father Divine and Daddy Grace.
It's simple mathematics. Check it out. I revolve around science.
Peace. It's Rakeem with Wild the Dome. Today I have a very, very special guest. He's an author. He's a content creator. He's an activist. I mean, he's a thought provoker on many levels. He's done so much to push the culture forward. And it's a great honor for me to have him on the show. See this ALife Allah. I thank you for coming on, God.
So peace. Yo, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
No doubt, God. And like we were saying off camera, I want to say it on camera. This means a lot to me because, just being inspired by your books and your works and, growing into knowledge and understanding then me growing into my own knowledge and understanding, and to have you here, on a platform that I created, and you've done so much to push the culture forward, is truly an honor. And I definitely appreciate you for coming through, God.
No thing.
No doubt. So I'd like to start from the beginning, God. Your journey in knowledge itself. Everybody has a different story, but these stories are beautiful, man. Whenever we hear people from different places in the world, and what inspired them and what sparked them. If you can, for those that may not know, like what started you on your journey to get in knowledge yourself.
Wow, man, it's funny. Like every time someone asks me that, it brings me back. You know what I'm saying? Because where I'm at right now is funny because let me think real hard. Yeah, I've had knowledge of self longer than I didn't have knowledge of self. You know what I'm saying? So I'm at a different place now when I go back and reflect that, it's the norm for me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's the norm in terms of something that I'm still growing into it. You consistently grow into it. Well, I'm at that point where I passed that point. It's like, yeah, you've been living, not eating pork, longer than you were living pork. My journey is kind of it's different than a lot of gods, I want to say, because one, a lot of the gods who I knew growing up, they didn't have a father figure in their life. You know what I'm saying? And so the whole science in terms of, when, the man that we know as Allah came, and how they interacted with a lot of the old, my big brothers in the science and everything was definitely in a brother kind of sense, but also that kind of father reference. I didn't need that. You know what I'm saying? My father, you know what I'm saying, who's passed away now, but my father is older. He was older. You know what I'm saying? Like he had me toward the later part of his life. So my father died he was 92 when he died.
Wow.
And he was born in 1922.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? My mother, she was born in 1935. She passed in 2001. So my parents came from an earlier generation than even people in my generation's parents were from. All right. So that first gave me a link back to certain historical things that other people didn't have access to. You know what I'm saying? Like they had to go to their grandparents to find out certain things. Their great grandparents. I didn't. My father grew up during the Depression. You know what I'm saying? My father fought in World War II.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? My mother, you know what I'm saying? It's funny, like nowadays, I always remember that she was born in 1935 because that's when Master Muhammad left. In terms of the year after. So I'm like, okay, he left in 1934. My mom was born in 1935. You know what I'm saying? They both came from rural backgrounds. All right, even though I grew up in the urban kind of setting, I grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. My father was from Kentucky. My mother was, from Arizona. In fact, my family was one of the first Black families to move to Arizona during the Great Migration.
Wow.
outside of Arkansas. I use the terminology move because that's what I heard my whole life. And then eventually I found out from talking to my aunts and other things that, they fled in the middle of the night.
Right.
To feed and left all their land. My mother grew up literally, my aunts, there's pictures of them without shoes and stuff. They grew up like picking cotton and stuff like that. So for me, I had a link to our history that other people, I had a direct access, and the church that I belonged to growing up is still around. It's a huge church. Everybody in my family on both sides, mother and father, all belong to the same church across the United States. It's called the Supreme Council of the House of Jacob.
Wow, that's deep, God. That's deep, God.
Right. So my church was different. I should say different, but it's similar to a lot of other Black churches at the time. It was founded in the early parts of the century, and it was in line of like the churches of like Father Divine and Daddy Grace and things like that. So I always say I had a Christian Nation of Islam outlook about the great, the supreme being, right? So for me, the leader of our particular church, he was seen basically as God incarnate, and when he died, the next leader was basically seen as taking over that particular lineage. So I already had this notion in terms of man is God, specifically the Black man is God, and so like all those Bible verses and things that would knock a lot of people out of, that would capture a lot of people who came from a religious or church background. I already knew those weren't any surprise to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So saying like, ye are gods, or like, Adam heard, God walking in the garden or things like that. That was normal to me.
Right.
But it's when I got into high school, that's when I just started questioning this structure of church and things of that nature. And you could have answered some questions for me. And between my senior and junior year in high school, I went to public school in New Haven, but public school at the time was popping in terms of a lot of people were investing in the public education in New Haven. So like IBM adopted one of our high schools there, and another big construction corporation called Fusco. I say all that to say this, that they started a program by which they gathered several students from different schools in New Haven and would send them to Africa for abroad for the summer.
Wow.
We didn't have to pay shiz, Nick. We didn't have to pay anything. Yeah. So like you can imagine, I'm a young Black man, inner city, just out of my junior year. That was the summer of 1988. Yeah, summer 1988, going into my senior year. But that whole summer, I spent in England, Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique. Also stopped by Tanzania too. So that's when everything hit me heavy. I got off the airplane. I saw only Black people. It blew my mind. Like everybody, like from the janitor, I'm telling you, to CEOs everywhere. Just like the sea of Blackness. And I was just like, yo. And so over there, a lot of things happened. It was over there that I stopped eating pork because they brought us to a slaughterhouse. And I was like, oh, this is some nasty shit. I'm good. What was hilarious about the slaughterhouse show, I actually have a picture of me the moment that they like sliced like a cow open and the entrails fell. You see it on my face. It was like,
you're like, nah.
I'm good. Stench and everything. And then they had the nerve to take us to like a fast food place in Africa.
Now that is that, right?
I was like, yo, I have the fries, yo.
Yeah. Right.
But so to try to bring it full circle. So what happened is after that amazing summer, I came back, right? I was one of the few Black boys at the time at that school who didn't eat pork. And now it's almost like a norm thing,
right?
You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't normal then.
Yeah.
So so like the gods found me. You know what I'm saying? They're like, yo, you righteous? I'm like,
right.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just don't eat pork and stuff anymore. And then they just started dropping the gems on me, and it was amazing because I always tell people, a lot of times nowadays people is like, you have to have like this pure heart to study mathematics and all this kind of stuff. Like, listen, dude, the reason I started studying, I tell everybody, I wasn't in it for knowledge of self, whatever that meant for me at that time. I was in it for a couple of reasons. One, the gods were given the latitude to be smart and fly at the same time. And it was funny because that was already kind of the niche that I kind of already fell into.
Right.
Because I was already on the track team. I was already an athlete, but I also at the same time, be the chess club. I belonged to, I was writing poetry and prose in a program. So I already like had found, and I was a dancer too. You know what I'm saying? So I found the middle path, right? So that was the first thing. I was like, oh, y'all are what I've already been focusing on. Right. Two, it wasn't really knowledge of self, but it was just knowledge for the sake of knowledge. They had answers to questions that I had.
Right.
And if they didn't have the answers, they pointed me in the right direction on how to get those answers.
Right.
So I was like, why wouldn't I want to be down with this?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it was, and so the two brothers, one actually returned to the essence. He got shot. And the other one, he actually became Muslim, but they introduced me. I got Supreme Alphabet, Supreme Mathematics, Supreme Alphabet. I got the 1 to 10, and I went hard. I went into it. I was like, yo,
right.
You know what I'm saying? But I went so hard, they couldn't, at that time, I didn't know that there was a history of gods in New Haven, in Connecticut, Connecticut specifically at that time, because the earlier generations that came there, a lot of them had either just passed through Connecticut or they were incarcerated.
Right.
And so a lot of the guys, when they got out, they didn't kind of build up the circumference where they were, but they would travel to New York a lot. But they weren't detectable to the naked eye. So once I found out that the school was in New York, I went to the school in New York. And you got to understand, it's funny, I was a big headed scientist.
Right.
I only knew Supreme Math and Supreme Alphabet and, barely knew the 1 to 10, you know what I'm saying? And I was coming there I was like, you said,
right.
What's up?
Right.
I ran the firstborn prince at the school and he roasted me. I got destroyed because at the time I was doing a lot of parroting in terms of definitions for Supreme Mathematics, my explanations and stuff. It wasn't anything related to myself. I really didn't have knowledge of self.
Right.
I had Supreme Alphabet, Supreme Mathematics, Supreme Alphabet, and the 1 to 10.
It was in the memorization stage.
Yeah, I had no concept in terms of how to apply it yet. You know what I'm saying? I just knew in my mind, this is what you do to flex at your God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I really knew, I didn't understand any concept of righteousness. I didn't understand any concept of duty. I didn't understand all the other things that come with our curriculum, like the full body of the dietary restrictions, things like that. So, firstborn prince basically he listened to me. Then at one point he's like, yo, are you the sun or you the moon? And I was like, yo, I'm the sun. What are you talking about? Like you should know this. I was really that arrogant. I was like,
that's firstborn prince, right?
Yeah. And I didn't know who that was. He was just like some old dude, what I'm saying, with a keffiyeh on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, what you? I was like, you want some? Like, what's up?
Right.
And he's like, you all feminine and the moon out here reflecting stuff that other men. And he proceeded to dig into me like 15 minutes, yo.
Damn. That was a long 15 minutes, God.
Yo, man, it was like several days. It seemed like, at the end of that, though, there were several other guys there, at that point, though, the God Demel, not God Demel from the Bronx, from P-Line, the Bronx, who a lot of people think that I'm talking about, but there's a God Demel from Mecca who was there, and basically afterwards he pulled me aside. He's like, yo, you want to get this right? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, And so he started with him, and what I would do, I would travel back and forth from New Haven with Metro North, the train from New Haven to 125. You get on it, it goes straight there. It takes about like an hour, 45 minutes, whatever. But I was going back and forth, getting degrees. You know what I'm saying? Like when brothers get degrees in chunks. Now I got degree by degree. Like I'll go get a few degrees, go back home, you know, and they were real serious. Like there was one time I went there and I don't recall exactly what degree I didn't know. They were like, okay, bye. I was like, yo, I just came here. Like, is it like you did do what you said you were going to do without wasting time? You know, so after that, you know, went back and forth. And so this was during school years. So school time. You know, so I acknowledged 120 in 1989. So that was my senior year. For that, they, you know, God their bell really put me on in terms of just like, yo, you got to do this for you. You know what I'm saying? And when you do it for you, you do it for everybody else, you know, but he was a real, I don't want to say a homebody God. Like when I went to him, it was like, he was an English teacher. So he was very, very, very similar to how I was used to digested information.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Same with my research and stuff like that. Now, another God in my tree, actually the guy who taught him, but the reality is that he was like his peer almost, is Rakeem Powerful, who's from Medina. Now he was just like, oh, we going to Medina. We get on a train, end up in Medina on some corner. And he's like, yo, you see those three guys he's over there? He's like, they're God, go build with them. I'm like, what? I was like, yo, like I'm like, you know, I'm not from here. You know? But that began in terms of put me on the right path, making sure that I had it right. And they also made sure for me to seek out people like older gods and older earths to get the story firsthand. You know what I'm saying? In terms of history, and also just to learn how, you know, how to carry yourself when you professing that this is what you're about. You know? So that's pretty much the short of what brought me, you know, here. And I ever left since. You know, like I never thought like, oh, this ain't for me, or I've elevated past the degrees, all that kind of stuff.
I can't stand that, God, because it's like, nah, you don't, it's not a, you know, or you hear sometimes that we got to update the lessons, or like, like the lessons are living, man. Like, you know, as long as you elevating, your understanding of them lessons will continue to elevate. You know what I mean?
Right, is that, right, is that. And it's funny because all that tells me is like, dang, you wasted all that of your life and you never got it. Like you never got it. Like like that was, so those are first questions. See, for me, those are questions that you're supposed to ask when you come into this, right? Because the first thing when you get that 1 to 10, you know, is set in the period of 1933. You know, it's set in a period in time, right? And you're dealing with populations. So like that's the first thing I asked. I was like, okay, it's
population now,
right. I was like, this ain't 1933. And so immediately, you know, God and Mark, they got on me right away. So like, yeah, this is how you utilize this math and alphabet to make it walk and talk for you here and now. So that's an understanding that you supposed to get when you at least in the 1 to 10. If you acknowledge 120 and you still saying like you need to update the degrees,
that's wild. You didn't get it.
You didn't get anything. You know what I'm saying? You didn't get it.
And that kind of brings me to this is, so, you know, we're in the age of the internet and technology just, you know, every day it grows and, you know, more things are connected online, you know, from the Internet of Things to, you know, now they even got some new shit called like the Internet of Bodies, where it's going to be like Fitbits and hearing aids with AI and all of that stuff, right? And so just listening to your story on how you got knowledge yourself and had to catch a train to another state, right? And not even getting you're not even getting the full 1 to 14s at a time, or the 1 to 36, getting degree by degree sometimes, right? Can you? And so I understand that we can use everything to build or destroy. The internet is a great tool if used properly, but you know, for people who aren't necessarily familiar with this culture but have seen, you know, the gods build online, can you explain why it's important and why we say you can't get this online? You got to walk and talk with somebody.
There ain't no culture out there that you can get online. And not a one. You know what I'm saying? Even when you're trying to learn portions of a culture, what's the best way to learn portions of a culture? You do deep immersion in a culture. So for instance, if you're trying to learn Spanish, right? You know what I'm saying? when I was learning Spanish, what I used to do is I used to take little post-it notes, put them on everything around the house in terms of their names in Spanish, right?
Right.
I would listen to Spanish music, even if I didn't understand it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But they will always tell you that the best way to learn it, though, is to go to a Spanish-speaking country, you know what I'm saying, and just deeply immerse. And it's the same way with this culture. It's like there are things that you get that are technically I don't say, there's something that you get that are not quantifiable.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? It's certain quality. And in order to get that quality, you know what I'm saying, it takes interacting with a person, meaning that these same degrees, these Muslims have these degrees, you know what I'm saying? And they don't automatically get these and say that they're God, right?
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? It's different nowadays, but when I got this, you know what I'm saying? Nation of Islam, they definitely as a whole were out there saying like, yeah, I'm God. You know what I'm saying? So it's the transformation of power isn't in the paper or the words. You know what I'm saying? It's in applying this, and you have to learn how to do that. That comes with person walking you through this. You have to learn how to apply this and process this. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is that a lot of people, even in this day and time, may say like, "Oh, well, I got it all online." Da, 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 da. And guess what? Every single one of those people, you can tell that they did.
Right, right.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's online or in person, I could tell a person if a person is speaking online, about. I was like, "Oh, yeah, you didn't get this how I got this." Right. You know what I'm saying? And the missing key also there's a key it's interesting. I don't want to draw the direct parallel, but when you join a fraternity, whether it's like the Freemasons or whether it's like a collegiate fraternity, and it's funny because somebody put me in on this. It's like so many people are so intent on getting to the secret, right?
Right.
That's in those things. And you know what the open secret is? The open secret is that you could have all the passwords to Freemasonry, all the passwords to, Omega Psi Phi, Alpha. You could know all the secret grips and everything, right? And you still won't be that thing. Why? Because the secret that bonds all them together is the process of going through the initiation together.
Wow. Right.
So I know, my likes, I'll say my righteous brothers, because we have similar stories in terms of how we process this, how we went through this together. What we do, our understanding, resonates. And this is because we share, the same respect in terms of how to get this,
right.
And that's not on paper.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't get it. I don't care. I don't care how many different ways you say. I don't care how many different copies of 120 you got. I don't care if you can know the history backwards and forwards from all these books and everything. You still don't got it.
Right. Indeed. And that's a powerful parallel that you made, especially with the language, right? Because I've heard of stories of people who moved to a foreign country, right? And they learned the language not from a book, out of necessity or just from being around.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the same with us.
That's why we speak English.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? This is why we speak English. Right. Our ancestors didn't take no dang course, and this is how we speak English. But yeah, like you got to go through this, and it also, for lack of a better term, it weakens the germ, when you don't do this right and exact.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because now you have a person who didn't get it right and exact, and then they're going to pass it on.
Yeah.
And these kind of things, especially in the day of the internet, allows many things that we advocate to be mixed and tampered with by those who know better and those who don't know any better.
Yeah, because I've seen even situations where people online know the language front to back, and they'll have a following, but the following doesn't know any better. But we know that you might not have went through what we went through to get it because of, like even whenever we was building online the other day about, when I said you if you'll never say in front of a 5%, hey, they're not doing community work over there, because the guys is going to be like, well, why you ain't doing it? Yes, and I learned that because I said that to my educator one day, and he was like, well, why you ain't doing it, God? And shut me right up.
Yo, I had a similar situation with my educator. He basically said, I was the same thing. I was like, well, they ain't doing it. Right. And he was like, yo, if you call yourself God and you're speaking about more about what another man is doing or isn't doing, he's like, you're a Muslim. That's and that's your God. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like if there's he also drew another parallel. He said same things with the earth. He's like, if the earth is talking, more about another man than her God, then that man is her God. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And so for that point, I was like, yeah, you're right. I ain't ever go do that again.
Indeed, God. And I had to learn that as talking about the devil. Whenever I first got knowledge, I was so keen on white man doing this, white man doing that. And I was like, yo, I'm talking more about what he doing than what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, God. I mean, we could definitely build on a lot of that later too. Because I have an alike who don't even use the word anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like he only used it as and I pretty much adopted that practice on a lot of levels, but only as a teaching tool, even with the degrees. It's like because if you're taking the devil off your planet, why you keep referencing him? Right. You know what I'm saying? If his rule is over for you. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like a rule is a standard of measurement, a rule that so it's a standard, meaning that he's not supposed to be the standard no more. His rule is over. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be the standard. So you're supposed to be figuring out how that applies to you and here and there. And that's also, a gem also in terms of applying, these lessons to yourself. Many people sometimes they just substitute the word God for Muslim in their lessons when they're building in terms of trying to, communicate an understanding of the degree. And I'm like, nah, that's not that simple, because you still then have the same duties and responsibilities, of that particular person, even though you're putting it right there. So for instance, it says, why is Muhammad a Muslim or the devil? Right. Well, I'm not a prophet, I'm not, a Muslim. So, right. So just replacing God there is the first level, but then you have to really understand in terms of just like, if you're God, then you're going to have different duties and different experiences than a prophet or the devil. You know what I'm saying? I don't make Muslim sons. Right. You know what I'm saying? If I teach someone who's Caucasian, they're not a Muslim son. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because I'm the God. So yeah.
Indeed, God, powerful bill, man. And like I said, we always appreciate your insight, Lord. And you've co-authored and authored classics, God. And like I alluded to in the beginning of the show, and for self, getting knowledge of self, and then reading books and knowledge in my degrees. And a lot of times in the beginning, some of the books that you read are of an esoteric nature or philosophical nature, which is good. I don't see anything wrong with it, but sometimes the science is not there, and you need that to balance it, right? And you've, like I said, author of classics like Hood Health, Science Itself, When the World Was Black, and those books are filled with science, right? And that's what kind of helped to spark me to go hard and, becoming scientifically literate and being able to show and prove who the original man is through science, right? Not just philosophy. But before we get into, some of the things in the books that you authored, give us a glimpse of like what that process was like writing, because those books are jam-packed with information. So I know the research sessions had to be ill, God.
Listen, if I could go back and do it again, I didn't really, my mind was pretty much totally focused on that. But like in hindsight, I would have recorded all that stuff and made content. You know what I'm saying? And made an immense amount of content on each of those books, because each of those books was a process. So the first book that I jumped on with Supreme Design Publishing was the Knowledge of Self, the anthology. So I did that with Supreme Understanding My Life, who I already knew, you know, from back in the day, in terms of in the nation. And, you know, he knew that at the time I had one of the longest, probably the earliest and longest running blogs dealing with the nation. I'm actually, you know,
ahead of the curve with that.
I was one of the earliest people on social media. I mean, on the internet, period. That from the nation back in the day. So the earliest ones I would say is definitely Divine Ruler, because he was already working in IT stuff.
Right. Yeah, I see him build about a lot of IT, like programming, coding, and all of that.
Yeah. That's him. So it's through him. What happened was I was working in a youth service program, and they were funded by Yale, right? And basically, so what happened is I had access to computers and servers, right? And this is the early 80s. This is when people, I'm talking about people just starting with like emails. I'm talking about early 90s, right? I don't know what this is, but once I found, it wasn't even Google then. What was the search I was using? A web crawler.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I was right. It was web crawler. So it was two things I was passionate about at that time. One was, of course, the nation. So I'm like, yo, I need to find all my likes everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. And the second was martial arts, especially Afro-Atlantic martial arts. So I found every capoeira joint. I was getting connected with, you know, people who were doing 52 and stuff. Before this conversation was even happening, you know what I'm saying? The heavy conversation about 52 and Jailhouse Rock stuff happened in like late 90s. If you could check my resume, if you would go back to find my whack, you know, MySpace page, I had up there like 52 and junk. But I had some clips of me doing 52 too. But so Divine Ruler, he was like on those chat boards. Like he brought me to those chat boards. I found him. He was dropping he was doing like, you know, the mathematics of the day and stuff like that. So he was one of the first guys who online I got in contact with. And because he was scientifically directed, that sparked me. Right. Because up until that time, my particular strength or skill set was religion. You know what I'm saying? I knew the books real well. I knew the written Quran real well. I knew the Bible. I knew about all these esoteric groups. You know, I was able to draw. This is how verbally I talked a lot. So I referenced that stuff a lot. But he's the first one that came in there. It's like, yo, this is how you show and prove that the earth is round. They would have the whole trigonometry. I was like, oh, and I would go do that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, you measure the sun at this time of year, and then this time that you do. I did all stuff. And then he showed how to measure the distance from the sun to the planets, you know, and how to calculate the speed of light, all this kind of stuff. So he really sparked me in terms of like, yo, the science of this, right? And so it just kept going from there, and then we grew from there, you know, and so eventually, like I said, Supreme Understanding, who I got in contact with, wanted to do this anthology, Knowledge of Self anthology. And he knew I was a writer, and I was like, okay, let's go, you know. And
just in case for those who don't know, we're talking about right here.
Yeah, why don't you have it already? You know, but when he put it, you know, he said, I want to do this. And I was like, okay, you know, I'll write some stuff for you. He's like, yeah, but I want investors too. I was like, okay, I'll invest. I didn't even know what that meant. God, I really need it. You know what I'm saying? I was like, you need some money to help do this. It's a good idea. Let's do it. I try to, that book was harder to put together than, you know, a lot of people may think. First of all, a lot of people in that book, not necessarily a book, like they didn't want to write anything for the book. But I see their writing, so a lot of that writing was stuff that people had done online. Like, yo, can I use this? Like, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, wow.
You know? Okay. And it was funny because it's only after the book came out later that they were like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, they did it.
That's serious.
Right. I mean, and like I said, we gave people, you know, appropriate compensation for their contributions and stuff. But it was interesting. People really wanted to be like, yo, I deserve, like, you know, a lot more money. I'm like, yeah, I was like, you have no idea when you submit an essay to an anthology. You don't get paid in royalties.
Right. Right.
You get paid for that particular little piece. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But yeah, so putting that together was crazy because, first of all, it had never been done before.
Right. Right.
We had to figure the structure. What are we looking for?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? We had the editing was ridiculous because, we had to make it so that the people who needed the message got the message. Right.
Right.
And sometimes a lot of us don't write like that. A lot of us don't speak like that.
Right.
Which is why they're not the piece of steel with magnetic in it. You know what I'm saying? Because they haven't mastered that yet. So we had to do a lot of the editing and stuff. And it was just like I would go to work. I was working as a cook at that time. So I would work like late shift. So I would get out of work like about 2 a.m, probably got home about 4 a.m, try to go to sleep a little bit, and wake up and I would work until it was time for me to go back to work.
Damn.
And so we were just crunching. Put it together, and it already blew my mind because the pre-orders paid for it before that junk even came out.
Right.
Right. So as soon as that stuff came out, I was like, okay, this is what it is. So I was like, let's write. And people was like, you a writer anyway. You good at that history stuff. You good at that science stuff. Let's go. Mm-hmm. Hood Health, same thing, but people wrote specifically for Hood Health. Yeah. But once again, like I always tell people, Hood Health was supposed to be one book, half the size of one of those books. We got so much information that we were like, it's got to go out in 2 volumes. And that editing is the heaviest part of it. Like I could write stuff, no problem. The editing, especially editing other people's work, and then editing so it flows together with the other pieces.
Right.
It's just heavy. Once again, it was constant crunching. Like I don't even remember my life at that time other than work and working on those things. And the same thing with science itself. Science itself was even harder, I say, out of all of them, because man.
For those who don't know, this is Science Itself. If y'all don't have this, you need to get this. It's a classic. It's definitely a classic in the hood. But
it's crazy because like it was only me and Supreme, primarily working on it. And the good thing about that is that you cut down in terms of just like our understanding resonated heavy.
Yeah.
All right. Right. So it was easy, right?
We had that bond where. Yeah, I got you.
Right. And we simply saw the degrees the same way. It's certain people see degrees slightly different. Some lean heavy certain ways. So we were heavy on that science and history stuff. We're like, and we were like, we're going to go so hard that colleges can't fuck with us.
Right.
And that's why that started that whole footnote and everything. We're like, you want to read, you want the reference? This is it. Boom. Right. Take this. And this is also why several other books in the Science Itself series, we just fully haven't come around to do it. Like the one that everyone's still waiting on, this Aegean event.
Yep.
And if you can just see the research notes that I have for it. So it's interesting that you asked the process because I fully haven't figured out how to fully double back.
Yeah.
That kind of space, especially the kind of time that we're in right now. It's kind of hard for me to do that kind of deep focus on one thing because, be honest, a lot of things are distracting out there, and I'm working on that. You know what I'm saying? But the process literally is cutting myself off, and ironically, a lot of the information in there is just me tapping into what I already know to find the reference for it. I already know it in my head because I read it somewhere before,
right?
But then I got to think like, okay,
I
need a reference for that, right? So that's the hardest part for me sometimes. Like you with the Aegean event, I could tell you 1,000 different things that I'm just like, I still gotta find the reference for that again.
Right. Yeah, indeed. I mean, and those books, man, they've done a lot for a lot of people. And I mean, people from, and it's this is how powerful it is, man. From people from academic arenas, people in the belly, the penitentiary, people, youth, hip hop artists, like, you know what I'm saying? Those books are like, they really are hood classics like that. I'm just saying, I don't even, I mean, when I say hood classic, mean for us, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. But like to me, like, that's like work like this, that's how you live forever. You know what I'm saying? that ain't never going away. And just to say, man, we, you know, on behalf of everybody that was affected by those books, man, we definitely appreciate you. And Supreme, you know what I'm saying, for just the time and effort and everybody that was involved in, you know, making those books happen. And even like When the World Was Black, right? I have the I got the OG copy where it was 1 and 2. And you know what I'm saying? I got the OG copy. And what I noticed about that book, right? So that book was so ahead of the curve in this way. That book built on the science of who the original man was by showing and proving through genetics and ancient migrations. Now look at how many people are going to get DNA tests and all of that now, right?
Listen. I mean, and I'm better about it now, and calling it out. But you're right. We did that, meaning that I feel, and I'm thank you for having me on
no doubt,
the show, because I could get to say this, you know, and in terms that we are the originators and authors of a lot of stuff that you see going out there, and we never ever got the proper acknowledgement by people who learned from us,
right?
You know, so for something so simple as hood health, right? That the colloquialism in terms of adding the hood to health together.
Everybody doing that now.
Everybody doing that. You got trap yoga. You got, you know, ghetto whatever. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was doing that.
Hood, there was a hood Thug Kitchen. Remember that?
Thug, yeah.
That was some white boys.
Yeah. We went in on them. You know, but everybody got that from us. Nobody, you checked, Hood Health came out in 2010. Check it. Before that, nobody was trying to make it, you know, for lack of a better term, I like to use the word hip, but make it fly. You know what I'm saying? Nobody was combining all that together. The same thing you said also about a lot of things that are found in a lot of our other books, like When the World Was Black, The Science of Self, Black God. A lot of people are literally online, whole platforms built off of these books, acknowledging where it came from. And it's key to point out that it was very, very strategic in terms of how we executed this. Meaning, before the Knowledge of Self anthology came out, How to Hustle and Win, Supreme put out How to Hustle and Win. All right. When we put this out,
I got this. I got all of them. I got them somewhere. I got a whole library in there.
Yeah, as you well should. You know, but the science is that it would launch pretty much the transition between people migrating from MySpace to Facebook, right. And before these other platforms really started popping. But we also entered the market when bookstores were getting hit heavy, right? So bookstores were closing left and right,
right.
You know, so our whole promotion, you know, strategy was totally adapted for the hood. Like we went to swap meets, we went to the barber shops, you know, the nail salons, and that's where we sold the book. You know what I'm saying? Straight at the grassroots level. And this also preempted the so-called conscious phase that we have right now, that pretty much jumped off heavy right before early 2000s, you know, right when people started basically creating YouTube scholars.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, so, but we gave birth to them.
Yeah.
You know, to a lot of them, and they need to acknowledge that. But yeah.
But you know, see, that's the thing. That's why, like with the platform that I have, I'm going to do everything I can to shine my light on the people that are putting in work and have moved the culture forward. Because, you know, you're right. I see a lot of people that like to eat off other people, but not acknowledge where they got it from. Even to the extent where I'm seeing certain content creators, and their whole videos will be watching a Kevin Samuel video and then responding to it, or watching a Kwame Brown video and responding to it. It's like, where's the original thought? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. And that's key too, because like you said, like then it becomes very, very lazy, Right. And if you practice that kind of laziness on that level, then I know you practice laziness on researching. You know what I'm saying? I know you practice laziness on all these other different kind of levels, and also just to create a whole. It's kind of like with clickbait also.
Yeah.
Like you have these reaction articles or whatever, and I'm just like, they'll say like 5 things you didn't know about, Batman. I'm like, no, these are 5 things that you person who never read Batman before just found out, and you submitted to your editor, and now you're getting this clickbait article that has like 10 commercial pop-ups on it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's in the same, vein in terms of not being original, not being creative, not really doing something that you have a determined idea for in terms of what its effect going to be. Each of those books that we dropped, we had a determined idea of what we wanted it to do.
Right.
When I move right now in terms of whatever level that I'm moving on, whether it's hood health or science or self-knowledge stuff, I have a determined idea, an intent in terms of what I expect from that. I'm just not spinning wheels to be spinning wheels. You know what I'm saying?
So about hood health, right? You have the Hood Health Volume 1 and Volume 2. Also have the Hood Health podcast that you do. And the thing about Hood Health that I think was groundbreaking is the fact that a lot of, and I'm just being honest here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to knock nobody, but a lot of not health books that were put out by certain people were pseudo as hell. Like they they weren't based in any type of like real science or have any real benefits. But y'all came and y'all laid the science down. This is why you should do this. This is the effects, and people could digest it and be comfortable in knowing, hey, the research was done. And I trust these brothers to give me the real. What is it about like hood health with the books and the podcast? Like, why is that important? Why is that the movement that a lot of people should be paying attention to right now?
Well, anything else that we are striving to achieve out of life, you know what I'm saying? You always increase the quality of it when the quality of your health. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that you want to achieve in life, you cannot achieve unless your health is at a certain level. You know what I'm saying? And we know and understand that due to various different factors, but primarily racial health disparity, that we take a big hit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A big brunt of all that. And you're right in terms of like a lot of those books. That was really one of the main reasons why we decided to do Hood Health. Hood Health was supposed to actually, in its original inception, was actually going to be a cookbook for the nation.
Wow.
That's what it started off as. Mm-hmm. And then we just like, we're just like, no, it's more than health is more than just what you eat.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And then we just started, ballooning from there. But one of the main reasons, what you pointed out, there was no health book at that time that spoke to the people in the language that they needed to hear. Even there were a few quote unquote Black health books out, but they were very, very just obscured in a lot of spiritual, religious language.
Right.
Whereas like, I felt like, like if you're talking about what I need to eat, if we're talking about lead paint, if we're talking about carcinogen levels in our neighborhoods, proximity to, incinerators and things like that, then it's not important that you know my zodiac sign. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not relevant. So there was a lot of these books going out there like that, and I was just like, I wanted to get to the nitty gritty. You know what I'm saying? And then I was just like, let's just do it ourselves. And the one that was the model for us really was Dick Gregory. You know what I'm saying? He wrote the intro to Hood Health. We got him to write the intro, and before we even got him to write the intro, we basically got his blessing to do what we did.
Wow, that's wow.
Yeah, and I actually, Supreme actually hit me up. I haven't put it up yet. I have to do some editing, but we actually have the audio of him basically telling us that.
Wow. Oh yeah, you gotta put that. You gotta release that, God.
Yeah. I got the audio of him telling us that and basically going in terms of like how important this particular work is. And Dick Gregory was that person because he wrote a book. It's out of print now, but it's actually about to come back in print. called Cooking with Mother Nature.
Okay.
And it was in that book that I got like the straight health stuff without the preservatives and the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, and I was just like, oh, he's talking in a way that the people were receptive to him. And I'm like, I got hip hop.
Right.
Oh, I got this whole other tool that I can utilize to reach, a whole demographic, and yeah, that was one of the major reasons though, because like I said, a lot of stuff out there wasn't doing it. It's funny because nowadays you see a lot of it, like I said, but at that time, nobody else was doing it.
Yeah, nobody was doing it, and I've definitely birthed a lot of people. And like I said, we're gonna give you your credit all day long. What were y'all reaction whenever you saw a lot of artists, hip hop artists, because that's our generation, that's our our culture as well. And to see a lot of hip hop artists who a lot of people wouldn't think would be up on the kind of stuff y'all were putting out, right? Or people are, maybe quick to call them ignorant and, and this and that, but they reading y'all books, man. Like, what was y'all reaction to that?
That was just the confirmation and the best feeling, you know what I'm saying? Because one, it also allowed us to really realize in terms of just like how people, a lot of our people have this internalized hatred of self. You know what I'm saying? So they were already, there were certain of us there's certain people once they get so-called knowledge of self, because honestly, if you get knowledge of self, you won't be acting this way. They get so-called knowledge of self where they feel it's like now they're better than people.
Yeah.
Right. My father always told me, he's like, you may be better off than somebody in certain regards, but you're not better than nobody.
My brother be like, you trying to be the smartest one on the plantation, huh?
Yeah. So that brought out a lot of that. And actually, that's what I'm seeing a lot of now on social media, you know what I'm saying? In terms of people literally, and we see it now in terms of with cryptocurrency, with health stuff because of COVID, right? You got people who literally Johnny come latelys just popped up. All of a sudden, they are crypto analyst expert. You know what I'm saying? This person, is a COVID geneticist. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I'm just like nah. So, it feels good to get that acknowledgement and the affirmation by different people in the hip hop field and who fuck with us heavy. Right. That's what it's heavy, like they're just like, what you need. And also not just them, but even people in established fields, like, like Brian Terry, messes with us heavy. Who don't know Brian Terry? Brian Terry's a, world-class black cook, vegan cook out of Oakland, out of the Bay Area, who's written several great books. Like he wrote a vegan cookbook, couple of other books, but he shouts us out consistently. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people in places that really, really fuck with us, and that feels good. But it also feels good that we are able to then also teach other people in terms of by people who, digest our stuff, like these hip hop artists that's like, don't judge a book by its cover. These hip hop people are the people that came from your hood, you know what I'm saying? And these are the kind of people that you're supposed to be reaching anyway. Right. Right.
You turn your nose up at your people, man. We don't do that,
Right. And if you have knowledge of self, then you understand that. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because you understand that all, the all in all is one. You understand in terms of your responsibility to the people. You know what I'm saying? You calling someone an 85, you don't use 85er as like a
derogatory term, right?
Right. Because your mama probably still an 85. You know what I'm saying? Your girlfriend might still be an 85.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All your children's probably, you know what I'm saying? Like, right. You know what I'm saying? So like we don't do that. One of the key things that resonate with understanding is compassion and comprehension. Right. You know what I'm saying? So those two things together won't allow you to fall in those traps.
Yeah, indeed. Like even the Bible talks about the sick needing a physician, right? And if you say you're the physician and you turn your nose up at who you supposed to be helping, like that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to build on I was listening to your Hood Health podcast, and we recently lost X, Black Rob, Shock G.
Yeah.
And this is another reason why especially the hood health aspect of your work is so important. And we're in a pandemic, even though, you know, some people like to think that we're in the clear, but
listen. Yeah.
you already know.
Yeah, I do.
And but you know, I hope that, and I want to continue to shine the light on those type of works, because we losing a lot of these MCs too early, you know, and if I feel like that type of knowledge saves lives, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It'll spark them to get on a you know, a healthier wave. And you know, there are a lot of MCs who are, you know, like Styles P. He promotes.
Right.
He has the Juice Bar and Stick from Dead Prez. So
Yeah.
you know, it's getting to a point where even though this is happening, there's a certain demographic within hip hop that is getting healthy and pushing a healthy lifestyle. And I feel like we got to highlight them as well, not just mourn X and Black Rob when they die. You know what I mean?
Right, exact. It's crazy because it's not just in hip hop, you know, even in the context of the nation. We've lost a few, you know what I'm saying? Various different reasons, you know, it not necessarily be health, but we've lost a few who, in terms of age wise, you know, are pretty young. You know, we just lost, you know, I Am All, you know, Rakeem, you know what I'm saying? The archivist for us, you know, lost my, like, you know, See I Killed last year, you know what I'm saying? You know, who I came into this with, you know, so for me, it resonates real heavy because I'm that specific age that these dudes are passing away at.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not like 10 years younger. You know, I'm not like 10 years older. I'm right in this, like, this crux that people are dying too fast.
Right.
You know? And so you're right. It is important to, you know, to add on with those people who are building, you know what I'm saying? You know, in our mathematics says build or destroy. And the first thing that comes build becomes before destroy. You know what I'm saying? So the focus, you know, needs to be on, you know, highlighting these people. And also, you know, that these people also come with resources.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so like Stick right now is killing the game in terms of the health thing. He's getting partnerships and he's being seen.
Didn't Stick add on to I don't know, might not have been, was it Hood Health? Or
yes,
he
sir.
on one of the books,
yeah, he had on the Hood Health. We have a few hip hop people, you know what I'm saying, MCs in there. You know, that's another perk in terms of my Like Supreme being in, you know, Las Vegas, Atlanta. You know, there's a lot of people there that he can get, you know, one-on-one with right away. But yeah, no, I think it is important for us to highlight people who are making decisions, making choices to be healthier, and to find out what they did, to find out how it's going for them and everything. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm trying to think of, slipped my mind, someone who's just doing something now. But a lot of people also, even MCs, are getting into culinary arts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of them are investing in different health things. You have Rick Ross just investing in one of these medicine joints.
Wow. Telemed is the wave of the future, man. You're not even gonna have to get up and leave your crib. You know what I'm saying?
Listen. I've experienced this telemedicine due to, you know, the pandemic. For the, you know, I'm originally from New Haven. I'm out here in Portland now.
Right.
I was out here a couple of weeks, and I got hit with an asthma attack. That I had asthma attack literally over 25 years.
Wow.
You know, and it was
changing climate type of thing.
It's a lot of things. I really honestly feel that a part of it was dealing with the anxiety and pressure of moving. You know what I'm saying? But I was hot, but it was a smart move. I ignored it a couple of days.
Right.
Because traditionally in the past, I have been able to push through it. It just disappeared. But anyway, before I went to the hospital, I had a telemedicine conference with a doctor. I was able to get a prescription for an inhaler through telemedicine. Right. Whereas back in the day, you know what I'm saying, like that would have been impossible under the COVID, because I would have, you know, just moving, I would have had to find a doctor, you know what I'm saying, go physically meet with that doctor, then assess me, did all this stuff, telemedicine, boop, boom. You know, I right to CVS, I was able to pick up prescriptions. So yeah, Rick Ross invested in this, you know what I'm saying? So it's just all these different levels of health that we can invest in,
Right.
and that MCs are also investing. You have a lot of people who are investing, you know, in the ganja market.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So there's all these different areas of health. And I think it's a really wake up call for a lot of, like I said, that's in that bracket for me. It's like they don't want to die. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They don't want to die. People going out too early, and those people who have platforms that have made decisions to live healthier are letting people know that they've made these decisions. You know,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
real.
no, that's real. And it's definitely important because and for people who are struggling with that, they need to understand, hey, whatever you did in the past, you can still change your situation health wise today. It doesn't necessarily mean you didn't do any damage in the past,
Right.
but it's still good to, hey, put your best foot forward and start living a healthier lifestyle. Because I mean, even like I was a smoker, and it was the last bad habit I had to kick as far as things that health wise, and
Right.
ever since I did, I could feel the difference. You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
could feel the difference,
Right.
and so I definitely see the importance and appreciate those works. And you were one thing that I wanted to ask you about on that podcast. You were saying that and I saw with my own eyes when X and Black Rob died, people were scrambling to be the first one to be the first one to post it, right? Like, what's up with that, God?
Yeah. That trauma posting,
Mm-hmm.
it's several things. It's on several different levels, which is why sometimes, so deep and immersive when you think about it. One, this is just not the way Black people do things. Let's just be honest. This is not the way you traditionally do things, historically.
Right.
Meaning that, like, you didn't, if you didn't know for a fact that that person passed, you didn't say shit.
Hell no, you would call and verify that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. I saw people up there, people who, that I've respected, post like "Rest in peace, DMX." I'm like, and then they had to retract that.
Right.
And I'm like, you didn't check that out?
Right.
You didn't check that out? Can you imagine? You know what I'm saying? Like I get in the hospital and people are saying like he's dead.
And he's like, no, he's not. He's right there.
No, like I got smack. I got to smack all those other people, man. I got to smack them
Right.
because you look goofy,
Yeah.
But it's this thing though, in terms of just like wanting to be first, and it's part of that dopamine that comes from social media use. You know what I'm saying? Like I was the one who did it first. Now let me find the illest picture of DMX and put some kind of words under it on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? But another way that it's a trauma response from us also right now in terms of doing this. And we've been dealing with a lot of people right now who, due to the quarantine, they lost loved ones who they weren't able to see. You know what I'm saying? They have family members who are suffering, who they're not able to meet up with. Have births that's happening and not be able to be around. It's just abnormal. And so people do this to feel like they're in sync with certain things, you know what I'm saying? But this is not how you deal with trauma. This is not how you mourn somebody. The reality is, are you really mourning them? If you have a knee-jerk reaction to post it, and the other thing is that we're quick to post that. We're quick to post things like that, like you were saying, in terms of highlighting people who are sick versus highlighting the people who are actually, progressing and doing things. And it's kind of something that's we deal on various levels that we have to kind of flip out of. Like I said, build or destroy. You got to deal with the positive first. You got to deal with that situation first of positive things. And I see people post, rest in peace things of idols. You know what I'm saying? Before I didn't even know like their own family members have passed.
Right.
They'll say happy birthday to a rapper before they say happy birthday to
their own family. Yep.
Yeah. So it's just like this is something we have to move off of. We also have to move off of, because the other thing is that it becomes part of our trauma porn, which is now it becomes this posting consistently in your feed of this, for lack of a better term, this negative energy, this weighted energy and everything. And you're not posting anything that goes viral to counteract that.
Right. Oh yeah, most definitely.
Right. So there's nothing positive that you'll constantly see in your feed. I wanted to do this site back in the day. Me and Supreme wanted to do it, just never got around to call What's Good in the Hood.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we just wanted to post positive stories. You know how hard it is.
No, I was actually Supreme had contacted me. I was actually going to build with y'all on that.
Yo, we need to.
For sure, I'm down.
We need to do that because it's hard to find consistent positive news on the internet.
Right, it is. And did you even? I read an article a couple of years back. Facebook was even playing with algorithms, and they were testing to gauge the people's responses, where they'll take certain groups and you flood it with negative news, like negative news, and other nothing but positive news. And to know that they play those type of games, and I also have a theory, God. Dealing with human evolution, right? I'm not sure that our brains are evolved enough to take in as much stimuli as we are taking in, as far as on social media and seeing everybody's thoughts all day long. Scroll down, that person's thought, that person's thought, that person's thought. That don't seem natural. You know what I'm saying?
I can see it 100%. I can see 100% from various different levels. This is totally about to get a geeked out moment here, a nerd in the moment. But in sci-fi fantasy, you have telepathy, right? But you also have a minor one that they don't talk about a lot, because it's hard to kind of present, but it's called omnipathy.
What's that, God?
So omnipathy, telepathy, you're supposed to be able to speak to someone's brain at one time, right?
Right.
Omnipathy is that you're linked to all brains at once.
Oh wow, that's kind of like what we're doing.
the problem in portraying this many times. So for an omnipath, a telepath can't read him, right? Because their brain literally is mixed in with everybody else's.
Right.
But the big part about omnipathy that it talks about in the times that I see it presented is how to filter that information. And that's what you're referencing right now, in terms of we're getting this stimuli from everywhere, right? And even much so more during COVID.
Right. Oh yeah, most definitely. Everybody's at home.
Right. So I've already noticed myself, like, even if you don't have mental health issues, you might develop mental health issues during COVID.
Oh yeah.
Right. So everything from depression, anxiety, especially during the Trump era, where literally you're like, okay, what's going to happen next?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You have all these thoughts, and it's kind of just like the same way in terms of like telepaths they portray when they just hear too much sound and noise. They just it's too much, and I can see that, I can see that because I know that it's affected myself.
Right.
I've had problems processing stuff. Never had problems processing stuff. What are you talking about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I have to take breaks sometime, God, because it's too much. You know what I'm saying? I think about, like, from the time of the before the age of the internet, from 30s to early 80s. If you wanted to go talk to somebody, you either went over there or you called them, but you weren't necessarily privy to everybody's thoughts that they are having inside their head 24/7.
Right.
You are now, though.
No, you are, and for people that you don't even care about.
Yeah.
you have no connection to, and you don't even care about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you're right, and the stimuli works in various ways, the same way that an extreme shock will work for you. So it's like a fight or flight kind of thing, or fight or flight or freeze, right?
Right.
So you have those of us who on social media engage and going back and forth with a lot of people, right?
Find yourself in a debate in a heartbeat.
Right. People you don't even know. You don't even know what they look like.
Right.
Because they got a freaking icon up there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
An avatar. You don't even know what they look like.
Right.
You got people who flee, who's like, yo, I don't want to deal with all this. You know what I'm saying? You got people who freeze, you know what I'm saying? And you just constantly taking all this thing. But I could definitely see that this is definitely oversaturation in terms of stimuli and lack of comprehension are taking it all the way from knowledge to born.
Right.
So people hear one thing online and run with it.
Yeah.
And so they become underdeveloped in terms of how to process information, period. Like
right.
the way that we were brought up through this, like, yo, you got to be able to show and prove it.
For facts.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just say X, Y, and Z and think that it's all good and you're going to get out.
Don't post their source or nothing. They'll just say something, God, and then
right
with it.
Right. And this is where we are right now in terms of fake news and people not being able to comprehend and everything. And I think that definitely is a byproduct of this overstimulation.
Oh yeah, most definitely, God. And so you have a lot going on, a lot of content that you're creating for the people that most people. So within these communities, most people already know who you are. But for those that I have people that follow the show that are just getting introduced to certain, concepts within knowledge itself and the conscious community, and for people that want to tap in with everything that you're doing, if you can, just let them know like what you got going on and also where to find the books.
Okay. It's 1,001 things as always. My main, I can't even put main anymore because I'm in everywhere at once. Right. One of my ciphers that I'm heavily involved in is of course Hood Health and all of its manifestations that we have of it. So with the Hood Health platform, I've from outside of the books and the podcast, I've done I do talks, workshops in colleges to the corners, you know what I'm saying? Where they can find most of that stuff at basically everything. I'm working on my website and finally working to get that done so everything will be in one place. But the primary place, honestly, where they can find a lot of the stuff for my Hood Health stuff is on Instagram under Hood Health. And there I have a link tree.
Okay.
Link, which is linked to all things Hood Health. So it's Linktree. So that's www.linktr.ee.
I'll get the link from your Instagram and I'll put it in the description.
Thank you.
I already got your I got the Hood Health podcast as a featured channel on my joint.
Oh, fresh. Yeah. So that Linktree is where you can find all things Hood Health mixtape, everything. Anything that's about to be done with Hood Health is going to be done there. And I had Merc before. We're going to have Merc coming up soon. Also, just what we're going to be doing the rest of this year. You can find probably everything Hood Health on there. For anything else pretty much by me, you can pretty much link with me on Twitter under ALife a lot. There's two other major things that part of self, allergies have been killing me. Two other main things that I'm pretty much invested in: science of self, knowledge of self. So I do a lot of things about dealing with history, Black history, world history, anything or projects that I'm doing, you can find out via my my Twitter, but then also the website when it's done, it'll have that stuff up there. The Agena event book, which is basically the history.
Yeah, we're waiting on that, God.
Oh God, it's the history and genesis of the white phenotype and genotype on the planet. I
got a feeling that that's gonna be a pretty big, nice sized book too.
Listen, that's gonna be books. It's basically I honestly see that when it's done as like my magnum opus. Like this is like this is it. I want you to remember me by this. You know what I'm saying? And the third thing that I'm pretty much working on outside of those two things is my soul power rising work, and specifically I'm working on this project called Reimagine. So I grew up playing role playing games. I played Dungeons and Dragons and all that. I was the black dude,
Right,
you know what I'm saying, who played that stuff. And you know, it's cool now. It wasn't cool when I was young. You know, like it blows my mind.
Right.
But there's a black game creator that's in Atlanta, Balagoon. He has created a couple of role playing games. One's called Steam Funketeers. Another is called Grandma's Hands. Steam Funketeers is set in the 1800s, and Grandma's Hands is set like in the pulp era, like between World War I and World War II, and it's basically like a superhero kind of powers kind of thing games. But the key is I'm actually setting up campaigns that are going to be streamed online. And I'm using these games. I'm going to be using these games in order to teach history. So, you know, that the 1800s, you know, you come with a character, whatever, but I'll be able to drop you, like, you will be dropped in the middle of Reconstruction. You're going to learn about this for this stuff. So it's good. So, you know, role-playing games to me when I was younger just were incredible. You know what I'm saying? And as they developed, you know, I started off with Dungeons and Dragons. There was other ones that developed that were more in sync with different time periods and different cultures. So I figured, I was like, yo, like, what's a way? Like, this is a way to, like, basically edutainment. You know what I'm saying?
Like, you got the gaming community, the people that love history. You know what I'm saying? Put it together. That's perfect, dog.
Right. And especially people who don't know history. Like, there's so much stuff we talk about. Like, I'm tired of this phrase personally online when people say, like, I don't want to see another slavery movie. I'm like, yo, how many slavery movies have you really seen? Like, honestly, like, how many have you really seen? And you really haven't seen one. Like, and how many you saw that were done right? That's still part of our history. Like that phrase where people say, like, slavery is not part of our history, it interrupted our history. Nah, that's pork shit.
I don't run from that, God.
That's part of our history. We on the other side of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We came through that. We did that. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's important to me because I find out that people, like, a lot of where this so-called woke community, our conscious community is going is in the realm of just, you know, goofy shit. Like we had this discussion where you got people up there saying, like, Harriet Tubman was fictional.
Yeah.
Yo, like, or like there were no slave ships. Yo, who are you?
Right.
Who are you?
Dude,
you know, like,
I don't throw that word agent around, God, but that's what it seemed like, God, because, like, you can't be serious with these huge platforms misleading the people like that. That's crazy.
No, they dead serious, and so I find it, you know, I don't like to be reactionary.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you're supposed to be responsive to certain things, but not reactionary, because that means you always have to wait for the other person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So these things are for me to get ahead, like you said, ahead of the curve. So I know, for instance, that majority of Black people don't know shit that happened in the 1800s.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even those of us who know, you know, say there's still so much we don't know.
Like, for sure.
I'm constantly finding out stuff. I'm like, dang.
You posted a book. I went and caught that the other day. This joint right here, like,
listen, that book right there. If you are researching your family, if you're Black and researching your family, and you don't have that
I've
book,
been on the Ancestry.com wave for a while, man. I've gotten pretty far. For those that don't know, this is The Warmth of Two Sons, and I'm sorry, The Warmth of Other Sons, the epic story of America's Great Migration by Isabel Wilkerson. Yeah, so I appreciate you for putting me up on that, God.
Yeah, that's important if you study your genealogy, because the Great Migration literally is the connection that, especially a lot of us up north and stuff, in different places, like, that is the point in terms of, like, probably up to that history, you know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But then that Great Migration interrupted Jim Crow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like, we need to talk about, like, Great Migrations as, like, significant Black historical events, but these people ain't talking about that.
Good point, God. It's not talked about like that.
No, it's not. Like, right? Isn't that crazy? Like,
That's
even
crazy.
just talking to you right now, I just literally had that realization. Like, the same way that, you know, Jewish people talk about the Holocaust, like, Great Migration is important for us. Right. You know what I'm saying? The Great Migration is what gave rise to a lot of these systems that many of us are a part of in the conscious community. So,
Right.
for instance, you wouldn't have the Moorish Science Temple if it wasn't for the Great Migration. You wouldn't have the Nation of Islam if it wasn't for the Great Migration. You wouldn't have Father Divine and Daddy Grace and all them if it wasn't for the Great Migration. It's because they came out of these southern places, went in the urban areas, and they didn't have the church structures that they had available in the South. So they started, and it's another. This is a whole other. It's another reason why all these came popular. It's also after the world's Chicago World's Fair, the one that happened in the 1800s. That's a major thing also that happened because that's when the world's first council on religions happened. That's when a lot of Black people came, even people in the West became introduced to Eastern religions. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those people who came also ended up interacting with Black people who then started these new systems.
You know, that's God. I mean, that's a powerful thought right there, because even in like Message to the Black Man, Elijah Muhammad tells his story about moving to Detroit, right? But it's, if you're not aware, you're not looking at it in the context of a great migration, right?
I didn't find out till later.
Right.
It didn't. I read Message to the Black Man. It didn't connect me like, yo, that was the Great Migration.
Right. Wow, that's powerful history.
You know, so this is what I'm saying. Like, so when these people out there talking about Harriet Tubman didn't exist, they're out there talking about that there was no slave ships and stuff. Like, they don't know the history that existed. They don't know the Great Migration history. They don't know the Exodusters.
They found this slave ship. They found this hotel in Alabama. They found that. Right.
Well, this is the other thing. People don't even understand about slave ships. Like, okay, let's say, for instance, they say, oh, you know, well, where's the slave ships out? Where's the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria?
Right, where they at?
They don't, like, ships like that.
This is made of wood, man.
Right. And also specifically, there always wasn't specifically slave ships. Slave ships were also ran double duty.
There were cargo ships.
Right.
There was no such thing as a slave ship. You know?
Right. So it's just like when they say stuff like that, I'm just like, yo, like, you're, like you said, agent. Are you just really, really, really stupid?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or like these things, like, we don't know these things. Like, they're not able to name the towns that were the black towns that were founded after the Civil War. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know history. You haven't seen a slave movie. You can't name me where there was one slave rebellion at.
Right.
Let's put aside Nat Turner. You might know about that one, but like basic history, they don't know.
Right. Even like you just brought up the brother that was saying that Harriet wasn't was a fictional character. The thing that was so ironic about that, whenever he said that, God, is that same week, archaeologists had found where Harriet Tubman's father lived.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That same week, dog. Right. It's the irony in that, you know what I'm saying, is that you out here teaching this, but people are out there digging and doing the work. And it's like, nah, what are you talking about? She lived here when she was a baby. You know what I'm saying?
That's why it's always important, you know, that, like, you know, sometimes you can't just send a person who's like, well, Google it.
Yeah,
it doesn't work, because if they're not trained in terms of
how to Google. You know what? That's real, God. There's an art to Googling. You know what I'm saying?
There is, because 9 times out of 10 people just gonna go resonate with what they already quote unquote believe. See, when I find something that I might, either I want it to be true or
confirmation bias.
Yeah, the first thing I do is like, such and such debunked. That's why I look up. And if they and I see like, oh, this stuff has already been, you know, like when people talk about the pyramids, I'm like, yo, you really talking about aliens still built the pyramids? You really still talking about that they don't know how the pyramids were built? No, they been knew that.
Right.
But the problem is that you go with these people who write these new age books and everything, and you or even the archaeologists, and you didn't talk to the damn engineer.
Yeah, right. Talk to the archaeologist, but not the engineer about how to build it. Yeah, that's right.
Engineers know how these pyramids were built. Engineers already will show you how they raise megaliths with minimal stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you have to know how to research and how to process information. And this is something, once again, you can't necessarily get from a book. You have to be taught how to do that. You know, that's why we're poor righteous teachers, you know, in terms of like the poor is the reference in terms of what we're supposed to teach. You know, so if a person has poor comprehension skills, if they have, you know, poor learning skills, you have to teach that. You just can't give them information. And this is unfortunately what a lot of people do. They think they give information that they taught somebody something. No, you have to teach a person how to process information. You know what I'm saying? And then if you do, you won't have to say Google it. They're already going to go research themselves for themselves. They're already going to figure it out in terms of how to weigh what is, you know, fact and what is fiction. You know?
One thing I started doing, God, is if I read something in a book and it's like, that's kind of wild, I don't know about that, I'll look in the bibliography and see where he got that from.
Always.
You know?
Always. Even your Wikipedia pages. You know what I'm saying?
Right. There, it's at the bottom.
At the bottom, look at those things. Go through the book thing. Now, don't just use Google. Use Google Scholar.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Go into that search engine, you know, and see what's out there. Go into academia.edu. They have all papers up there.
Definitely. I got an account. You on there?
Oh yeah, I'm on there.
Yeah, I'll follow you, God.
Oh yeah, God. Come on, man. Like I be downloading like crazy ebooks like crazy. I'm gonna send you a site. I don't know if you're already up on this site for ebooks. I'm gonna send you this site for ebooks.
Okay, man.
I use it for everything. You know what I'm saying? And you have a limited amount of downloads a day, but I always have a backlog. I'm like, I'll come back. I'll download this. Yeah. So even if I'm going to buy a book, I try to get an electronic copy of it. You know what I'm saying? Because especially now that a lot of my stuff is in storage, I'm moving around a lot. I still have immediate access to my whole library.
Right.
You know,
I haven't done that yet. I want to. I put a lot of stuff in that I like physical copies. This downloading some digital copies and put them in a Dropbox. So if I'm away, I can just go, even because you know, like an iPad or iPhone only has a certain amount of storage.
Right.
And so I just, wherever I'm at, I'll hit the Dropbox and look at it like that. But yeah, God, I'm definitely on that same wave, man. And I want to tell you, God, again, man, I appreciate you for everything that you do for the community and everything that you got going. And, you know, I mean, you've done so much to push the culture forward, and we're going to continue to shine a light on what you're doing and celebrate the stuff that you have already done and the stuff that you're doing now, God. And I want to tell you, I appreciate you for coming through, Lord.
Thank you. No thing. Anytime, man.
No doubt, God. Peace.
All right, peace.